Okay, so what's saying people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs that we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video as you do have a bonus pair there for you. Feel free to skip ahead using the timestamps below. I will go through my trades for the week first. So we'll go through that and of course get to analysis shortly afterwards. But if there is a particular pair you are interested in, you can always use the timestamps which are below. But I did have two positions this week. The first trade I took was some shorts in pound Aussie. Still currently holding that position. I do have some targets down at these lows. Got into some shorts. Actually, no, I entered this last week. So I think last time we spoke about this position somewhere around here maybe. But I entered this last Thursday, so I held it over the weekend. And we did finally see some nice downside. Not quite targets yet. We do have this consolidation, which looks like price is perhaps going back to retest before continuing. I'm going to keep an eye to see how things develop. I will be closely managing it. If there's some signs that price is not going to respect this area, I can look to close the trade early, but I'm still looking for a lot more downside. It's a big counter trend move I am eyeing up. I'll take most of my profits at that low, but I will look to see if I can leave some to continue, because if there is some type of downtrend possibly starting, I would try to see if I can take advantage of that. And since I'm well positioned, it could be a really nice opportunity to take advantage of a big move. So pound Aussie currently short that one. We'll see if that can continue lower. Aussie CHF, I did jump into a long for this one. Currently in a bit of a drawdown at the moment. A bit more of an aggressive trade, probably even more aggressive than the pound Aussie position. But I like this idea because we're coming from all-time lows for Aussie CHF. And price has seen this nice bullish leg, and we had a very corrective move down. So I'm looking at this as a pullback of that initial push to the upside. I'm looking for continuation back into this zone pretty much at 0.55. I've had a few attempts to try and buy Aussie CHF, well actually two attempts, both end up in break evens. I had a buy over here, I believe, and then I had another buy over here. Both did see some nice upside for me, but came back and took me out at break even. This is my third attempt, so hopefully we can catch that swing. Looking for a push back into that area, since that's where all the momentum came from. I think there's a strong likelihood we do get there, especially because we're coming from all-time lows. I'm naturally expecting a big recovery. Price has pulled back into a nice area of demand. Very stretched pullback. I like the entry as well. Price formed a lot of support here to our left. We went and broke through that and since recovered. So I'm looking to see if momentum can kick back and we can see that bullish momentum come back into the market. At the moment, not quite seeing that. I do have a stop loss underneath us there, so worst case scenario, we'll take the loss and move on, but I'm looking for a much bigger recovery there for Aussie CHF. Still looking for a bit of weakness with the CHF currency. As for the DXY, before we get to Euro, DXY is still looking bearish as a whole, but again, I'm not so much interested about shorting the dollar anymore. We've been falling for quite a while, since the start of the year pretty much. I think we are quite stretched and quite oversold. So I do think we are coming close to potentially a bigger pullback, and I think there could be some nice buying opportunities off the back of that. In terms of the buys, I do want to see a strong move to the upside first before I even consider looking to long. And then yeah, pullbacks and some upside could make sense. The way I'll look at it is a bit of an inverse head and shoulder pattern. That could be a nice idea to buy. Also, I can still see the short ideas because of course the market's still very consistent with the lower highs. Still breaking through lows. If this stays nice and corrective, this could end up being a nice place for a retest and some more downside. So the market is still bearish, still seeing bearish structure. And if we can come back, retest this area, there's some nice support there. Nice break to the downside. This is still a healthy level for a short. I just don't expect to see another big move to the downside. I think the bigger move will be to the upside, especially as a swing trader. That's kind of where I want to position myself and the move I'm waiting for. So I think if you're intraday, keeping a close eye around 97.8 makes a lot of sense. But I think the bigger move will be to the upside. So that's kind of where I'm waiting to see if I can get an opportunity. But it does rely on a strong up move before I can look for pullbacks and some upside. So it just depends how we develop next week. Do we see a strong push up, or is it going to be a slow grind higher and a retest? We'll see as price develops. But that's really what I'm looking at, and my focus will be around that zone. Euro USD, same situation really as the DXY. Price action at the moment between the two is very similar. We've got some bullish structure here as well. Very consistent higher highs and higher lows. And we do have some nice confluence just below us at 1.16 roughly, or just above that. So looking to see again if Euro can get there. And if it's nice and corrective, I think this is again a brilliant place to be looking for some long opportunities, especially for a bounce. Doesn't necessarily have to be a big buy all the way back to highs and so on and so forth. Again, similar to the dollar, I think we are quite stretched here with euro. We've been bullish for quite a while. Overall, becoming a bit more corrective as well. There was some nice momentum in that last bullish leg, but overall, we are quite corrective on the way up. So I do think at some point, euro is going to have a bit of a relief, bit of a counter bearish trend. Maybe not necessarily a reversal, but I do think there's a big sell-off to be had. So that's kind of the move I'm getting ready for. But before I take any shorting opportunities, I do want to see a strong break of this area. And again, that could present maybe a nice head and shoulder opportunity. And I can get a vol on a retest, so similar to the DXY analysis. But we're still a long way away from that. We're even a long way from a retest of that zone. So not going to speak too much about that. I think for next week, just keep an eye on the buys. Let's see if we can get back into this level over here, see how price operates. There could be some nice buys, and maybe you see a push back to the high, but that's still a very smart place for a long. So keep an eye on 1.163. Again, looking for wicks, shift of momentum, bullish engulfing candles, and hopefully a swing back to the high. If we do see a break, then we can speak about the shorts, but that'll probably be for the week after, so we can speak a little bit later on that. But for now, that's the setup I am interested in. Okay, so over to dollar yen. So dollar yen, not my favorite pair. We are kind of just moving sideways here. I do think price is still likely to push back into 140. We do have very significant support below us. I think prices are likely to be attracted towards that area. The way I see it, we're just sideways here between resistance at 146 and 142.5. I think the best way to tackle this is buying low and selling high, waiting for price to push back into resistance, looking for opportunities at that same level, and looking for price to push back into support and waiting for long opportunities at that area as well. That way you can get a stop loss above or below support resistance, so away from all the noise, and still be able to kind of maximize your risk reward because of your positioning inside the range. Until price does give us a confirmed breakout and we get a retest, then yes, there will be some opportunities to take advantage of as well. But at the moment, we've been consolidating so well, so I would just keep consistent at looking at resistance holding and looking at support holding until proven otherwise. Like I said, I do think this is where the bigger move will be and where we'll probably break out eventually. But again, if we were to get short, I wouldn't necessarily look to target that level. I'll probably target the low of the range, probably book a big chunk of my profits there just in case we bounce again. And then I'll leave some positions to run just in case we do get the breakout. But this has proven to be a very solid level of support, and price could very much bounce at that level and turn against us. So very range bound market. Overall momentum is still down, so I would favor the sells. I do like the shorts at 145.9, not my favorite pair, but as long as that level can hold and if we can see price react there well, I think it's a smart place for a short, smart place for a stop. And likewise with the buys as well, if we can see some healthy rejection there, as long as the range continues, we'd expect price to keep bouncing. So keep an eye on the high and the low of the range, but that's the best I can see there for dollar yen going into next week. Okay, so next up we've got dollar CAD. So dollar CAD, we are coming into a big area of demand, and I'm looking at buying opportunities here. You can see last time we were here, we had a nice double bottom, brief consolidation, and price ripped to the upside pretty aggressively. I'm looking to see what we can do at this level again. We've already had a strong reaction, so there's some signs that the buyers are stepping into the market, and we are having a very corrective push down. So it does tell me that the bears are running out of steam. And again, if perhaps we are going to see some strength coming for the dollar, that could help dollar CAD to the upside. So I do like the idea on a buy on a double bottom here. Again, a bit more of an aggressive trade because momentum is still down. The more conservative approach would be waiting for price to show some signs of a break of structure, so some higher highs, then looking for some pullbacks after that. But of course, that could take potentially a couple of weeks to actually form. And this opportunity does allow you to get into the market a little bit earlier. It gets you a better entry, potentially a better risk reward in terms of when you're holding the trade longer. So there are some pros here, but of course I would wait for some healthy rejection before jumping in. There's a bit of a counter trend line here which could be used to our advantage. If we can see price close strongly above that, that could definitely help plan our entry, stops below the low, and then look to target the high of the not really range, is it? More of the previous swing high. and potentially we could go further as well. So I do like the double bottom opportunity. We're very slow, very corrective, coming back into the big area of demand. Should we see a strong break of that counter trend line, I think that could be a very nice entry, depending how we close and how we look. And then targets back into the most significant level of resistance, which would take us back into 1.37820 and possibly a lot further as well. But yeah, that's the plan I have for dollar CAD. Not really interested in shorting anymore. Well, very corrected now, running out steam, coming into support, into big areas of demand on the higher time frame. So I don't think the shorts are the best play anymore. So that is the plan going into next week for dollar CAD. Okay, so next up we got Euro Pound. So Euro Pound, we have been remotely bullish for a while. We've been seeing some higher highs and higher lows. It's a very steady market, very corrective. So I do tend to look for big swings for Euro Pound just because it does chop around quite a lot. But recently we have put some higher highs and higher lows. We've seen some nice momentum as well. Very strong double bottom not too long ago. And we have since reversed that quite long-term bearish trend there. So the market has been looking pretty bullish. Strong moves to the upside. I was looking for a retest of this area last week, so price was consolidating, hoping to get the retest, then a continuation, but it looks like Euro Pound was too bullish for that. We had a slight consolidation over here and broke out, so I think on Monday, the start of the week, and be looking pretty bullish since. So that does give us the opportunity for another pullback, simply another retest of this range if pricing be kind enough to come back, pull into this area, look for a retest. I think that's a smart place for a buy. I've marked out the swing high over here as a logical place for a target, and also place where potentially some sells could look good. I don't think this uptrend is going to continue forever, and if we can see some healthy rejection at this high, I think that's a smart place for a short as well. So could be speaking about some shorting opportunities as well for Euro Pound. I think for now we're just going to focus on the buys. That's where momentum does lie, and we're not quite at the highs yet, so I do think there's still a little bit more upside on the cards for Euro Pound. It's just about, can we find an entry? Can price come back and retest this level? Hopefully we can. Then perhaps we can speak about some selling opportunities later on, maybe the week after. So for now, hopefully a bit more of a pullback there for Euro Pound. Looking for the retest of 0.857 and some buys back into 0.87 for next week for Euro Pound. Okay, so over to Aussie dollar. So I'm interested in some shorting opportunities here. We've been trapped in this channel for quite a while. Price did break lower, and we had this big breakout a couple of weeks back, but did turn to be a bit of a fake out. I do think the bigger move is still likely to the downside for Aussie dollar. When we are very corrective like this and moving this behavior, we do tend to break lower most of the time. So I'm expecting that to happen again. When we are moving corrective, it's a sign that the market is very tired, very fatigued. We're seeing frequent pullbacks, not the sign of a healthy trending market. So I do think we'll break lower. And the best way to take advantage of that is looking to short near the higher end of the channel and look to at least short back to the lower end, and hopefully we can catch a breakout. But this is really the plan. I'm looking at around 0.66, kind of where the top end of that channel does meet up there. And at the moment, kind of trading in the middle. You can see this dotted line here represents the middle of that channel. So not really what I want to get involved in. And price so far has just kind of missed the up end of the channel. So I'm hoping to see a bit more upside, maybe take out some early sellers early next week, and then hopefully you can find some shorts off the back of that. And I'm not looking for anything too complicated. If I can get a swing back to the low end of the channel, I'll be very happy with that, book some profits there. I do think the bigger move is to the downside, so I will be trying to hold positions to try and see if I can push for a bigger breakout. If, of course, I'm not seeing signs of that happening, I'm seeing very strong rejection at the low, then I'll probably call it quits and walk away. But I like the idea of a bigger breakout. I think the market is a bit overextended and we're very, very corrective. So keeping a close eye, 0.66 for some shorts, and at least the push back into 0.65, which is the lower end of the channel for next week. Okay, so next up we've got New Zealand CAD. So I am still bullish on this one, looking to see if we can break higher, but we had a very strong rejection recently. So I wonder if we're just going to continue to consolidate. We could still break lower. We still are rejecting some areas of supply to our left here. I still like the idea of a buy, especially because of that big fake out we had last week. So I do like the idea, or the week before. I do like the idea of coming back to retest that zone for a reaction, but it's a bit more of just playing the range, not necessarily banking on price breaking high or doing anything really. apart from just respecting the low end of the range, as price has been respecting the high. It's been a very long lasting range. We've been kind of trapped here since late April, so it's been a while, but I have to say the support level has been holding very, very well. Of course, minus the fake out there, but if we were to come back there again, see some healthy rejection, I think that's still a very smart place for a buy. I would always keep an eye on the 50% of the range. I think that's a very kind of underrated area to look at. You can just eyeball it here with the fib, more or less in that area, so around 0.824. It's kind of an area which would make sense to book some partials, because sometimes you don't always see the full swing to the up end of the range, so booking some partials or even just removing risk at the 50% of the range is a smart move to make. And then yeah, if we do continue, great, we can take the rest of our profits at the highs. But 0.816, 817 has been a very sturdy level of support, so I would keep a close eye there for some long opportunities, and simply looking for a push back to the high end of the range. Until we get that bigger breakout, I'm not going to be too kind of confident in terms of the direction. I'll wait for price to make the move, and then we can reinvestigate and go from there. But for now, still just looking to play the range, like the buys at the low. Let's see if we can get some entries next week. Okay, so up next we've got pound NZD. So it's been a very, very choppy market for this one, but I do like the idea of a big push lower. I've been keeping a close eye on this level here. I think it's a smart place for a short. I was debating between pound NZD and pound Aussie short, so I hopped into pound Aussie last week, but very, very similar pairs and looking for a similar idea. We've been bullish for quite a while, but I do think the price is starting to run out a bit of steam. We are looking overall quite corrective. Price has taken out these highs here as well. I do think a bit of a counter trend move could form. And the way I'm going to gauge that is just simply which way we break out. If we break to the downside, there is a lot of downside for us to cover, and a counter trend move could be in place. If we do break to the upside and see price clear resistance, then we're probably going to push back to highs. So at that point, you're just going to be looking for pullbacks and break and retest opportunities all the way back to highs. So very, very simple in terms of the breakout. Within the range, keeping it simple as well, looking to buy low, sell high. I still like the shorts, so if price was to get here, I think that's still a very smart place for a trade, because again, I do have that kind of bearish bias, so I want to be looking to short rather than buy. But since we got this range, market has been holding resistance very well. I'll keep a very close eye on 2.27. I think that's a very smart place for a short. One thing I would say is I wouldn't want to get involved where we are right now. This is the middle of the range. That's where all the fluctuation and the indecision will be. So trying to get some good stops there is going to be very, very difficult. So I'd rather wait for price to get to the upper end or the lower end and then do my business there. So yeah, pound NZD, if we can see a drive high, keep an eye to see how price reacts. If things look good for a short, seeing healthy rejection, I think that's a smart place for a short. If we were to break to the upside, then of course we can switch that bias, look for some pullbacks, and probably gauge a push back to 2.32, which is the swing high. But for now, that is what I'm expecting next week for pound NZD. Okay, so next up we've got CAD Yen. So CAD Yen, I do think this is looking very corrective and perhaps getting ready for a bit of a bearish move. I'm looking to see if price can push back into support here. The way I'm looking at it is the market on the daily charts, that we had this big bearish leg creating these lows, and this could just be the pullback of that. The reason why I'm looking at the market in that light is because we've been very, very corrective on the way up. Typically, if this is going to be a reversal, I'd like to see a lot more momentum and conviction with this up move, which could change. You know, suddenly if we were to see a strong push to the upside like this, that would then put me pretty bullish. I'll be happy to look for pullbacks and more upside, but I would need to see a very strong push to the upside, a very strong push, you know, clearing highs and really meaning business before I would try and look for any type of continuation. We're very, very corrective, so if we were to slam back into the highs, reject it well, maybe form some wicks to the upside, I think that'll be a smart place for a sell. Entries in that area, stops above the high, and some targets back at the low here, or you can look at some more intermediate targets on the way down. That of course would make sense as well, but I would fancy a push back to the swing low, because the idea is that this is a corrective move and we're expecting a continuation of that bigger bearish trend back to low. So I would be expecting a push all the way back down to 101.5. But let's see how we react with the high. Like I said, I can see us turn bullish, but I need to see some very strong momentum above the highs. If things stay corrective, if you can react with the high as well next week, that looks like a smart place to short. stops above the high, and you've got some targets here to look out, but eventually I'll be looking at 101.5 for some targets for CAD Yen. So for now, still very, very bearish with this pair. Okay, so next up we've got Pound USD. So I'm looking at some downside for this pair. We had a very lovely bullish move recently. Bit of consolidation and a very strong push down, and that has made things awkward. I do think Pound USD again is another pair which is running out of steam, and I do think we can go through a bit of a sell-off. The bigger move might still be to the upside, but I do think a pullback is likely. Frequent pullbacks, not really seeing huge moves to the upside. We're taking out some major highs, especially with the price action in the lower time frames. Very aggressive break to the downside outside of that consolidation. Of course, this will become resistance, supply, and that could end up being a very smart place for a short, especially if you can see some wicks, healthy rejection at that area in the lower time frames. I like this area here for a target as well. Nice area of demand, brief consolidation there, very strong break to the upside, no prior retest, so we could see price drawn towards that area. Maybe we do turn bullish, maybe we do respect this area for a big bounce, the price could turn around. So I think for now it looks like a healthy target to have. I do think we can break through. I do think we can see a bigger move, but especially if you're just looking for a trade for next week, this looks like a decent swing which could take place during the week, and a realistic move to expect as well. So Pound USD, I'm bearish on this one. We've seen a very strong push down, simply impulse, consolidation, impulse. Now looking for the retest and the continuation. If price does go and break the highs here and continue, then I'll back away. Market's still bullish again. We might see some more upside, and in fact some buys might look good and some pullbacks. But for now, keeping a close eye on the shorts. 1.37 looks good. Expecting a push into 1.35, 35 for next week for Pound USD. Okay, so next up we've got Pound CAD. So Pound CAD has been very bullish, but it is a very fatigued market, so I do think we're due a bigger pullback for this one. I'm personally waiting for some big sells. I would like to see if price can go and break through these lows. If we do that, then the big sells I'm looking for, the big swing trade, I think could be very much underway, and hopefully I can find some pullbacks and some continuation. There's some more intraday, intra-week opportunities I'm looking at here as well. Right now we're coming back into a nice area of demand. In price, it is still somewhat bullish. We are still printing higher lows here, so you still do have to show respect to the buyers and bullish structure in areas of demand and support, because we very much could bounce there and turn around. And at the moment you can see we are struggling. Prices moving a bit sideways at the moment, especially after such a heavy sell. So this could be an area that does end up providing us with some upside. I do like this area here from a short standpoint as well. Nice area of supply, very strong move down. I think that would be a smart place to short from as well. So again, not looking for too big moves here, because I do see Pound CAD as a bit of a range at the moment. We are quite flat, not seeing very much consistency. It's not like we're trending up well, even though we are in an overall uptrend. We are looking very, very tired. So I think shorts look really good from this area here, 1.865. And I do think the buys look good here. I'm not liking the price action at the moment, but I think that could improve. And if I can see some healthy rejection, I think that's a smart place for a buy, healthy location. And even a push back to that area, could be looking for a 1 to 2, 1 to 3, depending on your entry time frame and the way you entered. But still, regardless, healthy risk to reward opportunity. So this is really the plan here with Pound CAD, keeping a close eye on this zone, 1.867. Keeping a close eye on this zone, 1.85. Smart areas for some buy and sell opportunities, especially intraday and intra-week opportunities there. So keep an eye on that next week for Pound CAD. Okay, so over to Pound Yen. So still very bullish for me, still very consistent with the higher lows. You can see on the daily chart, pretty consistent. We had another pullback this week into the trend line, into that kind of support area. We bounced very aggressively. And I still do think a pushback in 199 looks pretty realistic. So going into next week, I think more upside is likely for Pound Yen. In terms of opportunities, I think something that would look good, it would be a pushback into this zone where we've got the resistance level turn support, and of course that trend line confluence lining up together. It will depend on how we react there and how we get there as well, whether it still is a good opportunity. If, of course, we're bleeding to the downside, not seeing any signs of rejection, I would stay away. But if things look healthy, wicks, bullish engulfing candles, those things we want to be looking out for. If we can see that, that could develop into a very nice entry, and targets back at the high, which would be 198.6. And then you got the high there on the daily chart, 199.6 as well. But I'm liking the idea here for pound yen, as long as we stay above this trend line and don't see price go and break through. If we break through that, I would probably turn pretty bearish there for pound yen, or at least not be looking to buy the market. But if we can stay above this confluence, respect this area, I think it's a very smart place for a buy, smart place for a stop loss underneath as well. And you got some healthy targets there to aim from with some decent risk to reward. So pound yen bullish, keep an eye on 196.5.4, that area there. Hopefully you can see some healthy rejection, and we've got some healthy targets to aim for next week. Okay, so over to gold. So gold I've been pretty bearish on, looking for selling opportunities, but it didn't really materialize last week. We had a very sharp recovery. I was looking for some selling opportunities in this area. Didn't really see what I was looking for. I mean, things did slow down. We did become a bit more corrective. Had a very sharp move to the downside after NFP, and things are looking a little bit awkward after that. So I'm being a bit more patient with the selling opportunities. I want to see what price does. Another retest of this area, potentially might see some selling opportunities off the back of that. But what I do like the look of is this inverse head and shoulder pattern. You got a nice left head and right shoulder over here. I think from an intraday point of view, this is definitely a smart place for a buy, and targets back into resistance or supply even make a load of sense. Then we see what price has in store for us after there. But since we did have the break of the channel, price took out these lows here. I've been pretty bearish, but very sharp recovery. Not really giving me the bearish structure I've been after. A sharp test of that level. I think the buys look good, especially intraday. So what I would be looking for would be another retest of that area, so I can get some entries in that area and some stops below, and then taking it back into resistance, and then maybe back into 33.80, 33.90, which is where we do have that that resistance, which I'll keep an eye on. I might still be looking for entries to short. It's not my favorite opportunity anymore. There are other opportunities which look better. I'm all about quality over quantity, so I probably will back away from the shorts for gold for now. I think intraday makes the most sense. But what I will say though is with gold as a whole, if you zoom out, look at the bigger picture, and don't get too caught about the intraday price action, gold is just ranging pretty much. So the quality opportunities there are not really going to be of high quality, because we are just ranging really with gold. The momentum right now is very, very flat. It's not like we are trending well on the lower time frames. Yes, we're trending well altogether, but at the moment things are looking very, very dry. So there are other markets which are trending better, showing better signs of momentum, which I'll be more interested in trading than gold right now. But intraday, I do like the look of this break and retest opportunity, head and shoulder or inverse head and shoulder, and you can find some entries in that area. Hopefully see some healthy rejection. I think some targets back to at least 33.63, 33.60 makes sense there. So that's the plan going into next week for gold. Okay, so next up we've got Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, I've been looking for some selling opportunities. Price was giving us these lower highs, moving quite well in this channel. We did see a nice rejection initially, nice push down, but we only got about a quarter of the way before price did turn around and look pretty bullish. We ended up breaking to the upside. Now things are looking a bit awkward. Is price breaking to the upside? Is price having a bit of a fake out? I'm not too sure. I'm quite undecided. I want to see a bit more clarity here. If this is a fake out, I want to see price really push underneath, and hopefully look for the retest of that trend line, and we can base some entries off that, and a push to the low would be the plan, as it was last week. If price can respect this area, simply looking for another push to the downside. We're still very much struggling at the highs here of the prior all-time high. This is going to be an area which we do struggle with again. We could see a repeat of what we did last time and see another swing back into the lows. If price is going to break out, then hopefully momentum can pick up, and there could be some really nice buy opportunities to follow momentum back to highs and new highs as well. So there is upside potential if price is just consolidating, getting ready for a big breakout. There could be a lot of upside opportunity, but I want to see more clarity with that as well. Is price just coming back for a retest? Well, in that case, let's create some new highs, and then we can speak about some pullbacks, some retests, and definitely some entries in the low time frames to take advantage of that as well. So I can see price going both ways really. Just depends which way momentum picks up. If this is going to be a fake out, then essentially looking for the retest of the trend line as we do push back within. And then opportunities would be a short back to the low end of the channel, at least retesting that support around 99k. So I can see price going both ways. Waiting for a bit more development with BTC. I'm not too sure if this is a breakout or a fake out. It's not very quite clear. So until that does become clear, staying on the sidelines, and then there should be some nice opportunities regardless of the direction. So keep an eye on the breakout, and hopefully we can base some trades off the back of that going into next week. And last but not least, we've got our bonus pair, which for this week is Euro Aussie. So I do think this one's getting ready for a big sell. I've been keeping a close eye on this pair all week. I did jump into Aussie CHF, so I'm not actually interested to jump into Euro Aussie until I can get that to break even. I'm kind of doubled up with the Aussie at the moment. I've got some shorts in pound Aussie. That's break even, so there's no real risk there. But I am currently in some drawdown on Aussie CHF, so I don't want to jump into another Aussie pair and expose myself to more kind of Aussiness. So I'm waiting for that to be managed first, whether I do get stopped out, then I can get into a new fresh trade, or I do get that into profit, lock in some gains, and then I can jump into a new one. So I want to manage that first, but I do like the opportunity here in isolation. I think the market is quite stretched. We had a very big push down, nice kind of relief of that. I'm looking at this as a pullback for another continuation lower. I'm not quite convinced that we are going to push back to highs, especially with the way we are moving. We're very, very corrective. We've already pulled back into a healthy area, 0.5, 0.618 almost. Come back into a nice area of resistance there as well. And I kind of like how price is moving. It's very, very corrective, and we're starting to push into a bit of a wedge pattern here. So if we could see a strong break to the downside, especially closing below that that trend line, that counter trend line, I think that'll be a smart place for a short. Stops above that area, and we've got a pretty big swing to take advantage of back into lows. Of course, there are other targets as well, so definitely keep an eye on that. But I would expect a lot more downside. I think we are quite stretched. This move here kind of gives me similar impressions to what we did with COVID. Very strong up move, and price had a very big recovery of that. I would expect something similar, maybe not as big. Of course, there was a big global pandemic going around there, but not quite as such at the moment. But I am seeing similar behavior in the price action, and I'm looking for a low high to develop here. But it does rely on seeing a strong push down. Of course, the trend is up. We could continue back to highs. So if we do still see price break above and retest and continue, that could still be the case. So it's very important to see momentum shift and see some aggressive momentum pushing down. That would be the catalyst for an entry, and then we can jump into some positions, and then you've got some targets to aim for as well. So yeah, that would be the plan for Euro Aussie, keeping a close eye on that position. But that does bring us to the end of the analysis. If you have found it useful, please be sure to drop a like on the video. It does really help out. Subscribe to the channel. And of course, make sure you do go and hit the bell so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. Make sure you do check out Zentrix AI Telegram channel. I'll post a link to that in the description below. Looking to launch next week. If you're looking to get involved with learning how AI can help improve your trading, whether automated trading bots, indicators, developing strategies, refining strategies, digesting fundamental data, and many, many more. Make sure you check out the Telegram channel for more information about the project, and of course launch, which is happening next week. So do check that out. But guys, really appreciate you tuning in. Drop a comment down below any pairs you're looking to trade for next week. I'm interested to find out. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all in the next one.